What's going on, guys? We're going to be continuing our series today on the oddly specific features of every personality type. At least I hope to cover every personality type eventually. And today we're going to be delving into the INTP. So let's get into it. The first oddly specific thing that I notice for you as an INTP is that you have a very particular sense of humor. I think that a really good example of INTP humor is actually one of my favorite comedians, Louis CK. It's almost like a sense that you can notice all these kind of everyday aspects of reality that we just take for granted, these very banal elements of life, and you can sort of peel beneath the surface a bit and pick out the parts of it that are really absurd. I think there's a strong emphasis on absurdism for the INTP sense of humor. And I think that you guys can have this kind of dry, deadpan approach to comedy where you might just mention something in passing or you might just make some kind of observation, but the way you can frame it and you can bring it to light, the way you can present that really just has me balling up in laughter a lot of the time. It might be something like noticing a certain kind of advertisement that we might just walk past. We might just notice that there's this regular advertisement and it's advertising, say, milk or something like that. But I noticed that for you as an INTP, you don't just look at it and notice how it's an advertisement, but you notice like multiple features of how it's put together at once. So you'll notice like who it's targeting to and why that person might have that desire and why that desire is sort of linked to a human need and how the society is sort of structured around that human need and how this particular company has taken this product and then kind of put it out there to market on that. And usually we just wouldn't even notice it, right? We'll just kind of go for it and think, oh, okay, milk, I'll buy some. But you guys have that ability to pick out why or how it's doing what it's doing, and then you can present it in this way that I find really raw and authentic. And like I said about Louis CK's sense of humor, and a lot of other comedians I think have a very INTP sense of humor. Not to say they are INTPs necessarily, but the sense of humor strikes me as very, very raw. There's a sense of so many things that we take for granted and pulling them up into the surface and just taking a look at them. And it could just be a little gesture that you make or sort of an observation of someone, or like I said with the advertisement, there's kind of just noticing how there's like these particular features of it that can be really easy to miss. And I think you guys pick up on that stuff really well. And it's actually kind of making me giggle a bit thinking about it. There are some times when INTPs have said things to me about stuff that I might notice what they're saying to some degree, but it wouldn't come out in a way that's so raw or authentic to me in that moment. I might not necessarily just put it out there. And I think you guys do that in a way that's really incredible. So that's the first one. The second thing that I noticed for you guys is the sense of often processing emotions after the fact, kind of post-processing your feelings. You might be in a situation where you have a disagreement with someone, or you might be in a situation where something goes really right for you, and it's like, yes, you got the thing that you wanted. But where for me, as an introverted feeling dominant, I might actually really tune into that emotion right away, and the feeling of it is actually the thing that I'm most focused on the whole time, and I'm constantly checking to see if I feel like I'm personally in alignment or if I'm personally in congruence with what's happening in my life. I think for you guys, it appears more just as information. It's like, okay, the thing worked well, this thing went the way it needed to, and that's good, and it's just taken kind of as raw information, or I didn't like the way that person categorized me there. It seemed really unfair. It didn't really seem accurate to me. It seemed like they kind of misunderstood me there. And I think that you'll just kind of categorize it and notice how it doesn't really seem accurate to you. And then you'll just move on, go on with your day as it was. But then later on, I think there can be a sense of the emotion of the situation is still kind of happening, because being an INTP, like obviously it's not that you don't have emotions or that you don't have feelings, it's just that they're in a different kind of position for you. And then later on it can come up and it's like, wow, actually like I'm feeling all this emotion, like is it because of that? And sometimes, I mean, I think that's why it can be really helpful to have someone around you for an INTP who is actually more keyed into the emotional responses of situations and the emotional nature of situations, who can maybe point out, hey, like, well, that thing happened. I mean, for me, that would have made me feel really bad. And then you might kind of, no, I don't really think it's that. But then when you actually start to think about it, it's like, yeah, there was actually a genuine sense of disconnect that I felt there. Or, yeah, I should actually feel good about how that situation went down. I actually put a lot of effort into that. And it's kind of processing that emotion later on. And I have heard INTPs say that they do actually, over time, learn how to take time to actually like sort of have a set time that they can tune into themselves and sort of process a lot of what's going on. I think that that happens for you just like it would happen for everyone else, but you tend to be post-processing emotions, noticing how you feel about things a bit after the fact rather than just right then in the moment. The third and the final oddly specific thing that I notice for you as an INTP personality is that I think there can be a sense of you being quite unfairly labeled as kind of a robotic, or in the worst case scenario, maybe kind of like a misanthrope or a pessimist. A lot of our society structure is based around getting people's needs met. And if we were to look at it through behavioral temperaments, for example, a lot of people are statistically quite agreeable, right? They score quite high in agreeableness or politeness. There's kind of a faith in that institutions that I get myself involved with will actually do the right thing by me. And I can just trust in that. And that's a lot of how our society is based. It's less chaotic in the sense that we feel like we can just trust in what's happening around us. Or I can just get involved in this social circumstance and have a good time and connect and like sort of extroverted feel my way through things, and then things will be all good. But for you as an INTP, I think two things actually that you value maybe more than anything else in the world are truthfulness and sovereignty. You value the information that's coming into your life and the way that you're living your life being based on the principles that you hold to be most important and most authentic and accurate to you. And second to that, it's sovereignty of mind. It's being able to take in that information and make sense of it for yourself. You don't want someone else telling you the way things are. You want to take in as much information as possible from other sources so you can kind of bring it all together in kind of a melting pot and break it down to see the common denominators so you can build better systems over time and you can understand how systems work. But then when you think about it, if you're going to have a really authentic connection with anyone, you need to be able to share what your highest values with them are. And if your highest values are truth and you're noticing how there's a lot of incongruence or maybe a lot of dishonesty in social structures or systems or social interactions, maybe you're noticing how there's certain things that are happening in your family life or your social circle that you just don't really agree with and just aren't really matching up for you a lot. And then you bring them to people because you want to actually bring the truth to them. Like you feel like that's actually providing a lot of value to people, and it probably would be if they were open to it. But then you bring these things to people, and I think there can be a sense of like, it makes people quite uncomfortable a lot of the time. And I think when we feel uncomfortable, when we don't know what to do with information like that that's been presented to us, there's a sense of like, we just kind of want to pigeonhole so we can understand it. We don't necessarily want to go home and process all that and think about it. Was it accurate? Is this thing happening in this social dynamic right now? Was I kind of being disingenuous there? Is this system actually not, do they not have my best interest at heart? I don't think that we would often spend as much time thinking about that, but I think you as an INTP, I think you do. So you'll notice that and you'll bring that to someone, and then there can be a sense of, I think a lot of people kind of pull back. And I actually empathize with you a lot here. For me, I'm an INFP, so I might not necessarily notice quite as many incongruences in the system, but I'll definitely notice how when I feel like someone's being disingenuous with me, or I feel like something's not really very in alignment with me, or something doesn't really seem like it's in alignment with someone else, but they're just going to kind of slog their way through it. But I think you almost have it a bit more intensely as an INTP, and I think this can actually... I think for you as an INTP, it's not so much that you desire to be alone all the time or you don't care about socializing or connecting with other people. I think it's just that when you bring what's most authentic to you to other people in situations, it's often not met with open arms. It can often be, people can feel quite standoffish towards raw truth in the way that I notice you tend to bring it as an INTP. So that's the last one. Okay, there are my 3 oddly specific things I noticed for the INTP personality. If you enjoyed this, I really want you to stick around for the full breakdown that I'm going to do. Breakdown, in my opinion, that is, of the INTP personality. I'll be bringing that out at the end of next week. If you got value out of this and you enjoyed this, I appreciate you helping me build up the channel by subscribing, liking the video, and sharing this to anyone who you feel like would get value out of it, or if they're an INTP and you'd like them to see it, or you'd like to see if they relate to it. That's going to be everything from me today. I hope you're having a beautiful day, and that's me.